When it comes to Crowbar Jones, not the episode itself, the fictional character that Gwiz made for his own amateur films, he's not terrible, but at the same time, I can't get into the likability. Don't get me wrong, I understand what Gwiz is trying to do. He wants to showcase his amateur films to so many people to get some feedback. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure that me discussing about Crowbar Jones would probably require its own video of what I feel about Crowbar Jones. But at the same time, since today's review is going to be about Crowbar Jones, since it's the title of the episode, I really need to actually keep an open mind of what I actually like from the fictional character that Gwiz created. Gwiz finished the next installment of Crowbar Jones, and he has an audience to watch the movie with him outside of his cave. Now, for the majority of this episode, we get to see the amateur film that Gwiz made, and through the beginning, people were actually into it. But as the movie continues, they're starting to be very disinterested. When I first watched this episode, I honestly thought it was mostly the editing, but then again, this is amateur. The only reason onto why the audience are engaged is because Gwiz may be good enough to direct something, but at the same time, his story writing isn't really the best. Not to mention that his brother, Panda, really hates the fictional character that Gwiz made, Panda, which he assumes that Gwiz made fun of him, not knowing everything about his brother, because through the majority of the film, Panda doesn't swim, but in real life, Panda actually swims. I guess it really goes to show that Gwiz just doesn't know much about his brother, since that they don't spend a lot of time with each other. But not only that, Gwiz desperately wants the feedback, especially from his brothers. He wanted Panda to watch the whole film from beginning to end, and he wants to make sure that he actually enjoys it. But no matter how many times he completely watches Crowbar Jones, especially in the Rooms episode where we actually saw Crowbar Jones for the first time, it's never gonna happen. And it's honestly a lot more disappointing where we don't get to see Panda having his feelings change after watching more of Crowbar Jones and what Gwiz did in order to make his amateur film come to life. But this is where the episode actually becomes a lot more better when it comes to Gwiz. He wants feedback, just like me, and so as other YouTubers who aren't getting as much comments along with views. I can understand that his motivations is understandable in order to showcase his second film to so many people that he came across. But at the same time, as the movie continues, let's just say that Gwiz really didn't think a lot through by making his second amateur film. And since that he's going to remain a bell for the rest of his life when it comes to his learning skills, he's not going to improve a lot. Which shows onto why this is the only episode I'm going to be reviewing involving Crowbar Jones. For now at least. With some of the audience leaving after watching the shower scene, it caused Gwiz to leave in depression because he really wants his fictional movies to be shown by everyone while getting the feedback that he wants. However, the only feedback he got is people leaving halfway into the movie. This actually makes us sympathize with Gwiz because he really put effort into making an amateur film, but at the same time, not good enough for so many people to be engaged. Well, apparently, considering that we get to see more of Crowbar Jones as this month continues, yes, I know I did mention that I'm not going to be reviewing another Crowbar Jones episode for this month, but since it's being mentioned once, or being shown in the following episode I'm going to be talking about as this month continues, it really shows that Crowbar Jones actually got so much attention that Gwiz actually expected. It's honestly odd to think about it, but once we get to that episode, it might show the whole story. And as for Panda, since that he's actually trying to be supportive towards his brother even if he didn't like the movie whatsoever, he decides to join in with Grizz's alternative plan along with Icebear included. And the alternative plan is to reenact to the scene that happens next in the film. Not to mention that since that they made this change, they actually impressed so many people who is willing to stay in order to watch what happens next. Let me tell you that this is something that someone would usually do in order to fix something in the ending, but considering that this is an amateur set where Grizz is just showcasing his film to people who aren't critics, I'm pretty sure that if this actually happens in an actual theater, people will be extremely upset. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you make a fully budget movie, there's no turning back. And you can't do something like this in order to get away with it. As for the ending, well, they got a standing ovation from the audience who's willing to watch the film. I'm pretty sure that if Grizz continuing on with his technique and the fact that he actually got so much attention really shows of how much lucky he got when it comes to him being one of the favorite characters from this show. And the fact that his brothers, despite Panda not liking Pando, helping him out in order to fix the ending that wasn't originally planned, is something that brothers would usually do in order to help a brother out. And even though that I didn't like the amateur film itself, it's still entertaining in a dumb way. Since that we all know that Grizz is just trying to make everyone happy while also just trying to show his creativity to so many people. Because I can easily relate to Grizz since that I'm trying to do the same thing, even though that I don't make an amateur film. Because it takes a lot more work, and it's honestly amazing that Grizz actually did all this by himself. Well, aside from the ending and the point where most of the audience leave. It may take me time to review other material involving Crowbar Jones from the show, but I can say for what this episode did is that it made me relate to Grizz a lot more, even when he's mostly the comic relief. So all in all, I did enjoy this episode, even if I had mixed opinions about it in the beginning. But for what this episode delivered, I really think that it really did a solid job. I give this episode a 7.5 out of 10.
Let's get this started again. Me and my whole crew.